Hey everyone, it's Alexander, the real Mr. Robinson. Welcome to the channel, and this is my review for Licorice Pizza, which is the latest movie from Paul Thomas Anderson, the same director of Boogie Nights, There Will Be Blood, and Inherent Vice. The movie takes place in 1973, and more specifically in the San Fernando Valley. Our two main characters are a high school student and the assistant of a photographer who meet at a school, start hanging out with each other, and eventually fall in love. And the whole movie is pretty much a series of events that they get involved with as they get closer together and grow further apart. Sounds like an adorable coming-of-age story, right? Well, what if I were to tell you that the boy was 15 years old and in high school, and the girl was 25 years old? Yeah, that doesn't sound so cute at all, does it? That is straight up jailbait. I've been holding off on my best of and worst of lists because I wanted to review a couple more movies before I actually make them. More specifically, the best of the year list, because there was a lot of movies that I really wanted to talk about before I actually make that list. And for any of you that think that Licorice Pizza is going to be on that best of the year list, I hate to disappoint you greatly, but this movie right here I really didn't like. And I wanted to go in liking it because the trailer sold me on the fact that it was a coming-of-age movie, it felt like something Richard Linklater made. And plus, Paul Thomas Anderson is a very well-regarded director. Personally, I haven't seen Boogie Nights or There Will Be Blood, which people say are his best films, but I have seen Inherent Vice, and I hated it, but I've always liked Paul Thomas Anderson's opinions on movies, because he never comes across as a snob. He enjoys comic book movies, and my favorite story of his was when he was in film school. For one day, the film professor said, "Alright, if you're here to write the next Terminator 2, then get out now." And he was like, "Wait, Terminator 2 is a great movie. What's wrong with liking Terminator 2? So, for that story alone, he has earned my eternal respect, but as a director, I'm not a big fan of his movies, and Licorice Pizza is definitely one that was a major letdown for me in terms of movies from last year. Now let's just get the obvious elephant in the room out of the way right now. The age gap. It's super awkward, it's super uncomfortable to watch, and the whole movie plays out as if you're supposed to be rooting for these two, and I'm like, No, I'm not rooting for these two to get together. Because when I watched the trailers, I thought to myself, okay, she's a high school senior and he's a freshman or maybe a sophomore at oldest. And when you're a high school senior, that's the point when you officially become an adult. You're 18 years old, and I thought, okay, it's still weird, but at the very least, both of them are in high school, so it's not that weird. When this movie starts and they establish that there's a 10-year age gap between the two of them, I'm like, No, this does not work at all. Like, this is just creepy, it's uncomfortable, it's weird, and it's just, it's not fun to watch. Now, I will give credit to Alana Haim. For this being her very first movie, she's really good, and her performance is fantastic, but the writing on her character, it made her come across as really annoying and just really kind of a loser in a way, where you're a 25-year-old woman who is such a loser that you end up hanging out with and falling in love with a 15-year-old child actor, or at the very least a 15-year-old entrepreneur, because this kid acts like he's an adult, he's running his own businesses. I'm like, yeah, that's the point in your life where you really have to question what you're doing. Copper Hoffman, he's supposed to be somewhat likable, but the whole time I just thought he was a completely unlikable douchebag. He's just so smug the entire time. I'm like, even if there wasn't a 10-year age gap between the two of you, what does anyone see in this kid? Then you have some people in this movie who are in much smaller roles, and by that I mean they're pretty much cameos. Sean Penn plays an actor who's supposed to be based off the actor William Holden, and he's very pointless in the movie, and it's just rather confusing to watch him here. John Michael Higgins, who is usually really good, and I like him a lot, he is part of probably the most offensive, the second most offensive aspect of this movie. The most offensive part of the movie is that it wants us to root for a romance between a 15-year-old and a 25-year-old. The second most offensive part of the movie does involve John Michael Higgins, because he is this businessman who's opening up a hotel and a Japanese restaurant in the San Fernando Valley. And he has these women next to him, these Japanese women who don't speak English at all, but his method of trying to translate for them is speaking broken English in a terrible Japanese accent. And not only is it pointless, but it's somewhat racist. I'm like, what's actually the point of this happening? Like, it's not funny, it's not well thought out, and it doesn't really lend itself to the plot, which is another problem with the movie, is that there's really no central core. There's nothing that ties everything together. Sure, you can make the argument that it's just a series of events and the thing holding it together are these two characters, but there's really no end goal. When you watch a Richard Linklater movie, like Everybody Wants Some, for example, it's a series of random events, sure, but it's all leading up to that first day of college. Like, the whole movie takes place at a period of time where you're getting settled into college and you're just waiting for that first day of classes. There's an actual destination that Everybody Wants Some is getting to. Not in this movie. And another pointless aspect of the film is Bradley Cooper as John Peters. For those of you who don't know who John Peters is, he's the infamous film producer who had an obsession with mechanical spiders to the point where it almost killed Will Smith's career. But Bradley Cooper plays him in the movie, and he is so pointless, but he's also the best and most entertaining part of the movie. He just feels so worthless, but when he's on screen, you're entertained and you're hoping that he pops back up at some point. And that's saying something, considering that the shot from the trailer where he's just going nuts and causing collateral damage isn't even in the movie. So the best part about him in the movie is not in the movie, yet he is still the best part of the movie. Go figure. I'm going to stop right here because I feel like I've done nothing but rant about this movie. And the thing is, I think it's one of the worst movies of the year, but I don't flat out hate it. I know a lot of people who have strong hatred for this movie, and I understand that, but it's not god-awful. There are some things to like about the movie, but at the end of the day, it's just so pointless, so random, and just uncomfortable to watch because of this 10-year romance. I can't really recommend it. So I gotta say, don't waste your money on it. It never made me angry. One day I will get around to watching There Will Be Blood and Boogie Nights, because if people are saying that those are his best movies, I'm willing to believe them, but between Inherent Vice and this, I'm just not a big fan of his movies. I mean, to be honest, I would actually rather eat licorice pizza than watch this movie ever again. It's not bad. It's weird, but it's actually a lot better than I thought it would be. And there you go. That's my review for Licorice Pizza, both the food and the movie. And now I want to know what you guys think about Licorice Pizza, the movie. But if you've actually had licorice on pizza, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that also. That's a really stupid sketch. But anyway, before I wrap up, the reason this movie is called Licorice Pizza is apparently there was a record store back in the day that had that name. Doesn't pop up in the movie at all, so for those of you who are wondering why the movie is named the way it is, that's why. It has nothing to do with food. But anyway, whatever your thoughts are on Licorice Pizza, let me know in the comments below, and until next time, this is the real Mr. Robinson telling you there's only one. Hello everyone, I just wanted to say thank you all for watching my review for Licorice Pizza. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell button to get notifications. Don't forget to follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, go check out my Twitch channel, and support me on Patreon. I'll see you guys in the next video, but until then, have a good day, and take care of yourselves.